Okay, so Aoife, sorry, next slide. So I'm sure many of you know us, but we're the Creative Europe Desk Ireland Culture Office, and we're based in the Arts Council in Dublin. And we're part of a network of 3 offices. So there's a Media Office Dublin, which covers the media sub-programme, and a Media Office Galway, which also covers the media sub-programme, but serves the Irish language and regions, essentially. So we can go on there. So what do we do? So mainly we've been designated by the European Commission to be an information and advice office to the creative and cultural sectors here who are interested in EU funding. So in addition to information events like today, we give one-to-one advice and assistance to Irish applicants or Irish organizations interested in developing applications to Creative Europe. We promote the program and its values at local, regional, national, and now Zoom level. We collaborate on an ongoing basis with key sectoral stakeholders here and agencies to better leverage our ability to kind of essentially get the word out and help the sector here. We also have a very large collaboration with the entire Creative Europe Desk network. So that's desks in the 40 countries participating in the program. We also directly assist Irish arts and cultural organizations with partner search requests. And we're increasingly developing cross-sectoral partnerships. What time? Oh, sorry, and events with the media program.
Yeah, I have a 10 o'clock scrum, which I could move up. That's just my own team. So
Rosie, is it? I think you're not muted. You just popped on for a second there. Sorry. If you wouldn't mind muting.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Aoife, next slide there. So this program, it's actually one of the silver linings of COVID is the final confirmed budget, which everyone's aware was quite delayed, was actually much larger than was initially forecast. It's just under 2.5 billion for the 7 years of the program, and 56% of that will go to the media sub-program, 36% goes to the culture sub-program, and 13% goes for cross-sectoral strand, and that's what we're here today to talk about. So the overall kind of context for this program, so what kind of gave rise to the final kind of program text and objectives was the understanding that the cultural and creative sectors face structural challenges that are transnational in nature with clear cross-border implications. The sectors here in Europe face increased competition from global players. And despite, I guess, in a way, kind of years of European funding for the cultural sector, the sectors remain focused on national and regional issues. And by kind of doing so, they can often lack the critical mass to compete on an international level. So the other thing that really kind of drove the objectives was obviously COVID and the European Commission's recognition how vulnerable the cultural and creative sectors were and are, and how hard they've been hit by COVID. So there's a real desire for this funding to kind of get out in the most kind of targeted way possible to help the sectors. And then I'm not sure if it's covered on another slide, but the program budget is front loaded in the early years of the call to get to the sector as quickly as possible. So just taking you through the general objectives of the Creative Europe program. So these would kind of cover all the strands. So the first objective is to safeguard, develop and promote European cultural and linguistic diversity and heritage. The second is to increase the competitiveness and the economic potential of the cultural and creative sectors, and in particular, the audiovisual sector. So this is often what I say to people, really your first thing when you're developing European projects is to kind of have an understanding of why the EU funds culture. Of course, it's always intrinsic value. You know, the EU, like any kind of national, local or regional funder, recognizes the value of arts and culture to our lives. But then really it's also linked to broader EU policy. So I've just listed here some of the key policy documents that have informed this program. So there's a new EU agenda for culture. There's a new work plan for culture. All of these are available online. This is really, the next two are very key. There's the European Gender Equality Strategy and the European Green Deal. And then finally, we have the European Framework for Action on Cultural Heritage. So it is, I mean, no one is saying sit down and kind of read and have annotated notes on all these documents, but it's really important to understand that European funding for culture is another tool for them to achieve their political and social and economic aims. So whenever you're developing a project, it's always kind of, I'm trying to think of the right metaphor, but this is the kind of, you're cutting your cloth to fit that idea. You're putting your ideas within the broader European policy context. Sorry, Aoife, next slide. So let's just look quickly at some specific objectives. So obviously each of the 3 strands will have slightly different objectives. For the culture strand, it's enhancing artistic and cultural cooperation at the EU level, supporting the creation of European works, and strengthening the economic, social, and external dimensions and innovation and mobility in Europe's cultural and creative sectors. I know it's a mouthful. For the media strand, it's really about promoting the competitiveness, scalability, cooperation, innovation, and sustainability, including through the mobility in the European audiovisual sector. So the cross-sectoral strand, which this call falls under, is about promoting policy cooperation and innovative actions supporting all strands of the program, promoting a diverse, independent, and pluralistic media environment and media literacy, thereby fostering freedom of artistic expression, intercultural dialogue, and social inclusion. So we see here very targeted objectives, but they are quite broad. So there's a lot of scope to fit, you know, what you want to do with your organization within these. And also, I mean, this is probably for another day, there's increasing alignment between what the EU wants to achieve through its funding and what national funders hear. So I think we're in a good position. Now, I think that's me done. So I'm going to turn off and hand over to Aoife now.
Thanks, Katie. So then feeding in from those kind of broader specific objectives around the EU Creative Europe programme, we're looking at the Creative Innovative Lab and their objectives specifically for this call. So this call is looking at incentivizing players from different cultural and creative sectors to design and test innovative digital solutions with a potential for positive long-term impact on multiple cultural and creative sectors. So the Innovation Lab will facilitate the creation of innovative solutions, for example, tools, models, and methodologies to apply to the audiovisual sector and at least another creative or cultural sector. And the solutions should be easily replicable and have potential for market penetration. But the project does not need to be ready or applicable immediately to the audiovisual sector, but one that could be easily replicated in the sector at another stage. So it's kind of looking at here a collaboration between creative and culture sectors and the audiovisual sector to look at that competitiveness within the European Union or on a global stage, but also to allow maybe for the audiovisual partner to develop something, develop the tools or methodologies or models that they're looking at, and it doesn't have to be replicable immediately. So it's allowing for funding for that kind of research and development. So what are the themes and priorities for this specific call? The projects that are applied for here that have policy priorities within the Creative Europe. So as we said, there are the policy documents, the Agenda for Culture, the Gender Equality, the EU Green Deal, Action for Culture in Cultural Heritage. So these are the policy priorities of the Creative Europe programme. So projects that look at these policy areas will be rewarded. But for the first year of the Creative Innovative Lab, the 2 themes that will be specifically covered are greening across creative and culture sectors, as well as innovative education tools using creativity and creative sectors to tackle relevant societal topics such as disinformation. So this is something that to keep in mind, and these are the first 2 priorities for the initial stages of this call. So what kind of activities can be funded? So activities in the area of design, development and testing of innovative tools, models and solutions which are applicable in the audiovisual and other culture creative sectors. Activities supporting the competitiveness, cooperation, circulation, visibility, availability, diversity and increasing audience across the sectors, activities that contain a high potential of replicability in audiovisual and other cultural and creative sectors. And finally, what around the activity and your project focus? So what can the project be focusing on in particular? That could be rights management and monetization, including transparency and fair remuneration, data collection and analysis with particular emphasis on prediction for content creation and audience development, the greening of the value chain across creative and culture sectors, including actions that contribute to the Bauhaus project. So again, that European Green Deal piece of policy work. And then finally, this has come up, but this is another focus within a project. So also an activity that could be funded, and that's around the innovative educational tools in the creative and culture sector, looking at societal issues, again, misinformation or fake news. So overall, the budget for this call, so the available budget is 6.3 million. And this can be increased to a maximum by 20%, but that will be confirmed at a later stage if it does get increased. So just to hop back to the bottom there, the project budget, which is important for anyone applying for this, and that's the maximum grant amount. So that has no limit in this particular call. So that means they're looking at, for organizations or for a consortium to have the ability and have the experience to budget realistically for their project and to put that forward as your project budget. So in that sense, there's no limit, but it has to be realistic, obviously, and the grant may be awarded maybe lower than the amount that you request. Overall, the grant parameters, and that's the maximum grant, your funding rate and your total eligible costs will be fixed in the grant agreement. And there's on the data sheet, you'll find with the call an example of the grant agreement document. So the expected impact. So as I said, it is a collaboration across the cultural sectors and audiovisual, but is to look at improving the competitiveness of the European audiovisual and other cultural and creative sectors through cross-section collaboration. Increase knowledge transfer between the different sectors of creative industries, increase the visibility, availability and diversity of European content in the digital age, improve business models and the use of data, increase the potential audience of European content in the digital age. There's two, I think, repeated impacts, but that's a double impact there if you do that. So how to make up your consortium composition. The proposals must be submitted by a consortium of at least 3 applicants, and they are beneficiaries. So each applicant will be a beneficiary of the funding and will be directly involved in the running of the project and its completion. So not affiliated entities or associated entities. And this will comply to the conditions that the three applicants must be legal entities from at least 2 different countries participating in the Creative Europe programme. The consortium must present a diverse range of expertise across several cultural and creative sectors, and including at least 1 audiovisual, one organisation working in the audiovisual. Now this, I realise my slides are have jumped up. So this is around the supporting documentation. So I suppose we'll go further into how you apply online in a moment. But just to confirm, if you are putting your proposal together, that you don't need actual supporting annexes, supporting documentation. When you are filling your application form out online, you are brought through a series of questions, and all of this will be your proposal in different areas. And so that's how you put your proposal together. So the proposal will be filled online. At that point, you will need to make a declaration on the ownership and control. So the person who is applying on behalf of the consortium, and you will have to confirm that you have the mandate to act for all your applicants. You may be asked at a later stage for further documentation for legal entity validation, financial capacity check, etc., or even just for confirmation around the capacity of the applicants, but not at the initial proposal or application stage. Eligibility, so as again we said, legal entities must be established in one of the Creative Europe participating countries, and you can look that up on Creative Europe website. They have the most up-to-date participating countries. So EU member states, including overseas and countries and territories. For non-EU countries, the listed EEA countries and countries associated to the Creative Europe programme, so there's a link there, or countries which are in ongoing negotiation for the association agreement, where the agreement enters into force before the grant signature. And just to be the continued of the eligibility, you must be established in one of the countries participating in the media strand of the Creative Europe programme, and you must be owned directly by a majority participation by nationals from such countries. For publicly listed companies, the location of the stock exchange will be taken into account to determine its nationality. And so financial capacity. So this is obviously key to being for your evaluation of your application, and for the evaluators to know that you have the capacity and you have the financial stability to undertake this project. So applicants must have stable and sufficient resources to successfully implement the projects and contribute their share. Organisations participating in several projects must have sufficient capacity to implement all of these projects. So the financial capacity check will be carried out on the basis of the documents you will be requested to upload. So there is a link there for the participant register, and that's how you put your documents up that you are requested. So these documents might be profit and loss account and balance sheet, your business plan, audit report produced by an approved external auditor, certifying accounts, and for the last closed financial year. Now, we were just talking, myself and Katie, so we can confirm this with you after this session today, but there is a link for a tool that you can use, and we're just confirming that it'll work across this application or this call for you yourself, or for the organizations to kind of check their own financial capacity using an online tool. So we can send that around. Obviously, we need to double check that if it is in working order for this call, but it could be useful for organizations to kind of check through their own capacity. So the application process. Applications must be complete, readable and accessible and printable for the evaluators. The proposals are limited to 70 pages maximum, and any pages over that will not be considered. So the application is in 3 parts, and as I said, it is all online. So I'll show you the link to that now, the portal, in a minute. But first of all, just to look at what you will be asked in those different the parts of the form. So for the application form part A, it contains the administration information about the participants. Who will be the coordinator, the beneficiaries and the affiliated entities, and the summarised budget for the project, which will be filled in directly online. For the application form part B, contains the technical description of the project to be downloaded from the portal submission system and completed and then assembled and uploaded again. And for part C, this will be filled in directly online, containing additional project data. So there is a simplified grant process. So this is, as I said, the tenders and funding portal for all EU funding and opportunities. So this covers all calls across Creative Europe programme. So you will go in to find this specific call. Proposals must be submitted electronically via the funding and tenders portal using the electronic submission system. So here we have the page in the search, funding and tender section, so you can find your call exactly there. So within the application call, or the application form itself, there is, as I said, part A, part B, part C, but within part A, there is the working packages, and this is how you construct your proposal into the different areas. And these are already designed and already titled for the application process. So they're called 3 different ones, called planning and project management, implementation, communication and dissemination. And they do sound really what they want. They do sound simple and really what it says, it does what it says on the tin. The planning and project management is literally all about your consortium and how you are setting out your schedule and your planning, how the planning is going to work over the months, or the extent of the project could be 24 months, and how this is broken down into different planning per project kind of section, and how this is going to work across the team. So implementation then is actually your implementation. So it is your project pieces, and that depends on what you're looking at. So maybe that's around the implementation of a pilot of the tool or of your innovation kind of piece of work, and then you need to have a plan around what that implementation and each kind of activity within that. And then there's communication and dissemination, and how obviously this is all around social media, all around kind of websites and online promotion and dissemination, and then other printed versions or other kind of relevant ways of communicating your project. So they're the separate areas called the work packages, and you can add a work package as well if you feel that there is another area. Maybe it's around research that you want to put in before the implementation, you know. So there are ways that you can adapt this to your own project and make it make sense with how your project is going to develop and be implemented, and then obviously kind of documented and disseminated. Overall, there is lump sum budgeting, which is to simplify the management and reporting. So each work package then replicates kind of within the budget itself. So each activity has obviously a cost attached to it. So for the planning and project management, you will have an overall budget that is a lump sum attached to that, and the activities within that. So it is a simplified. There is no kind of receipt managing, but you do need to report. You do need to report and kind of do ongoing reporting of your planning, your project management, and then obviously tally your numbers with what happens with your implementation and communication. So I suppose the real focus in the overall evaluation and the overall project is around deliverables and results. And with your planning and project management, you have a kind of key deliverables for that, and the same with implementation, and the same with communication. So that's a simplified grant process. It is simplified, and I would say that myself and Katie, we've just come through doing an application, because we do one for the Creative Europe desk. And once you get into the application form and look through kind of using those areas, you know what the work packages are looking for, but you actually, it's very clearly laid out, and it is around just reading intensely what each section is actually asking you for, and it does become kind of it does become easier once you've read through it. If you were at the moment you're developing something, you have a kind of a kernel of an idea, and you would like to join and become a project or a partner on a project, there is a pitching session that the Media Desk Matching and Network Group in Europe, the Media Desk from Austria, Belgium, Croatia, Denmark, France, etc., are putting together for this call for the Innovation Lab. And this is a transnational pitching session, and it's on Thursday, the 2nd of September. So you can at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So you can register by the 22nd of August through the link there. So we'll send you the PowerPoint, and you'll have the link for this. And maybe you don't want to pitch at the session, maybe you just want to kind of attend, or you would like to pitch your project and see if you can garner some interest with another partner. And if you would like to do that, do get in touch. We haven't nominated a project for the culture sector or the culture and media desk here at all, but you can still attend. There's no problem with that. But I think it would be really interesting in general anyway to hear the other project ideas in this pitching session. So yeah, we'll send you on the PowerPoint with those links in there. So the timeline overall, the deadline for this call is the 5th of October at 5 p.m. and that's Brussels time. And then just the kind of schedule. So the evaluation will be October and December. The results will be announced in January. And that's looking at a signature with the grant agreement in February. And it says that the duration of the projects should be no longer than 24 months, but extensions are possible if duly justified and through an amendment agreement process. So just having a quick look at any upcoming events that may be of interest. We will have a Horizon Europe Info Day in August. We will have, that's to be confirmed. We will have a cooperation projects application workshop August the 19th. And we're looking to organise an Access Europe and Creative Europe Desk Information Day around all of the available EU funding calls in September. So we will keep you posted around that, but do contact us or sign up to our newsletter if you aren't signed up already.